No matter your age, your plan for retirement can start today. From the News Channel 5 Network, this is the Retirement Report.
Good morning. Welcome to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. You know, we got a very important date coming up. And no, it's not Halloween. It's actually, though some of us may think of goblins when we think of this, and that's October 15th. This is the end of the deadline for filing your taxes for 2015. So if you're one that has extended and taken those advantage of the extensions that you're allowed for filing your taxes, time's up. Or soon will be. October 15th is that deadline. Now this leads into another thing. We're going to be talking about inflation and taxes. These are two biggies when it comes to planning in general. You know, I talked about the three worlds of investing, the safe world where we can have, you know, like savings accounts and checking and CDs and savings bonds and treasuries and fixed annuities, all those nice safe things where our principal's guaranteed and we have interest that's guaranteed, right? It's just the warm and fuzzies. And if we could just keep everything there and never have to worry, wouldn't that be great? Unfortunately, they don't pay enough interest. In fact, in many instances, they pay no interest. So that puts us in a bind when it comes to trying to stay ahead of inflation and taxes. Historically, we're looking at low inflation rates right now. However, if we look at the average, all right, if you look at the last 40 plus years, you'd have an average of about over 4% for rate of inflation. What we tend to use as a guideline to be pretty safe when we come to planning in today's world is about 3% for the rate of inflation. So that means each year the cost of the things that you buy to maintain your standard of living and quality of life goes up. And if your savings are not keeping pace with that, and then, oh, guess what? Taxes. Oh yes, that's another 1 to 2% that has to be added in as well. So now we're looking at 3 to 5% that you need to make at least just to tread water and not lose ground over what you've already accomplished. So we're going to talk some strategies about how to protect yourself against inflation, how to make enough money on your money, okay, to stay ahead of that. And the other is taxes. This is one of those robbers again, just like inflation, of your retirement security. Think about this. The difference, we have the tax brackets. We have a 10% bracket. We then have a 15% bracket. So that means if you go from the 10 to the 15, you just increase, right, 50%. Ooh.
That's painful.
Now the next one is if you go from the 15% bracket, the next one up is 25%. That's a 67% increase in your taxes on that bracket, from one bracket to the other. And I so many times see people that would be able to maintain their standard living quality of life in that 15% bracket, but because of they take withdrawals from an IRA to maybe pay off some debts, or they take money out and cause themselves to pay more taxes, you know, to bump up in that 25% bracket and end up paying more tax on that money than they would have had we just taken a plan, put together a plan and paid it over time. So these are some of the things we're going to talk about today. And with me to help with that is my good friend and special guest, Dr. Friday of Dr. Friday's Tax and Financial Services. She is the tax expert when it comes to small businesses and individual taxpayers. All right, so Dr. Friday, welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
Known Dr. Friday longer than she wants to admit.
Yes.
But it's
too young to know you that long.
That's right. It's not 20 years yet, but we're approaching.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
One of the things that we're talking about when it comes to taxes, and of course the deadline's coming, so people,
Huge deadline.
You know, that's a big one, right?
Well, it's major because if you filed an extension, and this is really for people that if you filed an extension, if you didn't, you're late, and you're going to get hit with failure to file late, which is 5% per month on what you owe. So that's a lot of money. So if you did file your extension, though, you have until October 15th. If you don't file, then again, you're going to get hit with these huge penalties that are controllable. Who wants to give money away? Kind of like Hank's always looking for ways for people to keep more money in their pocket. This is a way of you doing that. Even if you owe the IRS, you're going to save a small fortune, especially more you owe, by filing on time. Because believe it or not, by not paying, it's only 0.5%. By not filing, it is 5%. Huge difference. So you want to really make sure you maximize the places you can actually put more money in your pocket.
That's it. This is a great time for planning again.
Yes.
One of the things that comes in, I meet with clients all the time. We talk about taxes. So here's one of the areas that can come into play. One is taxes, the effect of taxes on Social Security benefits. So when you're taking money out of an IRA, let's say as an example, to pay expenses, and maybe you're thinking, well, I'm going to take that money out, I'm just going to pay off that old loan, whatever it is, okay? I'm just going to pay that off, I'm tired of having it, and I got the money in the IRA, and then I'm over 59 and a half, so I don't have to worry about penalties, I'm just going to take it out and pay it. Well, it's taxable income. It gets added to your other taxable income.
But Hank, it's not growing, and I'm having to pay these people interest and everything, and this money is not growing.
It is if it's invested with our firm.
There you go. Good answer.
It should be growing.
But that's what they keep saying. You know, they're saying it's not growing. I'm spending more money here, and it's growing. That's an excellent point. If you're keeping money, and this is why we started with up front about inflation. Yeah. If you've got all your money tied up in bank accounts, all right, there's a certain amount that you must keep there. Don't get me wrong. I talk about it all the time. You need an operating fund, meaning you need at least 1 to 2 months of your whatever your monthly expenses are, ideally in a checking account or combination of checking, savings, money market. And you need an emergency fund, and at least 6 months ideally worth of whatever your monthly expenses are should again be in a savings, checking, money market type accounts. All right, then you might even need a short-term fund. So if you've got money that you know you're going to be spending in the next 1 to 3 years, that's too short a term to be putting it in some kind of investment other than maybe a 6-month or 1-year CD, which pays little to anything anyway. But again, that money needs to be kept in those kind of things where it's liquid, where you can get at it to take care of those needs. So once that's handled, though, any money over and above that you have in your bank accounts, that's just you're losing money. You're losing money. Okay, it's not 0 interest. It's not 1/4% or 0.5% or whatever it even shows on that statement. It's 3% inflation minus what you're getting. So if 3% is inflation, right, and you're getting 0.5%, that means you're losing 2.5% per year on your money. Yeah, that's not good.
So not good at all. Now the other part is, yes, if you've got debts and you're paying interest, there's a cost there. But let's go back again. So let's say I take $30,000 out of an IRA. Right. And I'm going to take that $30,000, and that $30,000 just bumped me from 15 to 25% tax bracket. So now all of a sudden, instead of, I've got $30,000 and I'm going to pay 25% tax on, where had I taken it maybe over time, right, I would have only paid 15% tax on it. So instead of $4,500 in total taxes, I'm going to pay $7,500, $3,000 more. Now, where does that factor in when you start weighing that interest? We want to pay off the debts. It's just, what's the smartest way to do it? And the smartest thing to do is start with a plan. Okay? One of the things Friday and I do all the time is we sit down with clients and we work up in advance. So we say, okay, if you take this amount out, I'll run things by you Friday. We've done this so many times. I'll say, okay, we're thinking of taking out this amount of money. I want to know not only what the taxes are, of course, which we can somewhat calculate. I can even do a rough number there, but then the effect of Social Security. One of the things with Social Security, it's a complex formula.
Well, it is. I mean, because you have a couple things we always are looking for. Obviously, if they are getting Social Security, a portion of the Social Security may become more taxed if we're adding in an extra draw from a 401k or an IRA. The other thing that could happen, depending on their situation, would be AMT tax. We've had it kick in. If they're over $45,000, there's the chance that they could end up in a different tax bracket. It may limit some of the deductions they're allowed, depending on the tax bracket that we're looking at. So yeah, it's not, anyone can take obviously $25,000 from an IRA and multiply it by 15 or 20 or 25% and say, okay, this is what I'm owing taxes. But then they usually get this surprise, right? I mean, and that's why we work especially with Social Security. I think that's one of the biggest things, because they just look at their usual taxes, say, oh, I made $30,000, I'm gonna take another 20 out, I'm gonna be at 50, but they didn't realize that their Social Security was only taxed at like 50% of it, and it can go to 85%. So every dollar they took out, they almost had another dollar in Social Security, so they ended up doubling that amount. So instead of showing 60, they're now at $90,000 in a completely different tax situation.
And this is one of the things, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, though, we're going to delve into this more, because we're going to share some stories with you of clients we worked with what the results were and how we can fix these kinds of things and how we can make sure that we minimize your taxes. It's not just what you make, it's what you keep. So we don't want the IRS to get your money, we want you to get your money. Right? So more tips when we come back. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.